Hello. Hello, everybody. My name is Laura Mendoza, and I am an academic consultant for National Geographic Learning. It's very nice to have you here today because we're going to talk about something that is really interesting for today's classroom. We know that our students of the 21st century are kind of difficult. They are a whole new generation. They're a digital native generation, and they want things that are really different from the traditional classroom. So we're going to talk about something that is really, really important as a tool to complement our classroom. And it is important as well because it's going to keep their attention and it's going to engage them even more in the classroom and in the learning of a second language. So let me welcome you to WebQuest, the new look of lessons. This is a talk that we're going to make regarding this very, very interesting tool that actually started a long time ago. It's not that recent, but only until recently, teachers are starting to understand the importance of using these kind of tools in the classroom. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and we're going to start talking about WebQuests. Give me a second, please. So we're going to start with our presentation. Give me a second. Okay, so let's start with the presentation. So WebQuest, the new look of lessons. Why the new look of lessons? This is because nowadays we have changed the way that we see a classroom. In our time when we were learning how to be English teachers and we were learning how to be teachers, classrooms were designed to be teacher-centered. Usually the teacher standing in front of the classroom, used the board a lot, and started giving the knowledge that the students needed to start learning the language. That has changed absolutely nowadays, and now we have more and more student-centered classrooms. So this is why WebQuest brings a new look for a lesson that you can make in English language teaching. So what is a WebQuest? As I told you, this is not new. This was created in 1995 by two teachers at San Diego State University. These were Bernie Dodge and Tom Marge. WebQuests are inquiry-oriented lesson formats where all of the information, or most of all of the information that learners work with, comes from the web, from the internet. So WebQuests are a way of making good use of the internet. Making good use of the internet is important because our students are nowadays used to make the internet part of their lives, but they use it in not a very smart way. They use it to search for videos on YouTube. They use it to browse for music and the streaming services, but are they using it to learn? Not quite. So this is a way to engage those students in that 21st century type of thinking and teach them and mentor them of 21st century skills. The WebQuest can be created using many programs. You don't have to be an internet expert, so there's no need to worry. You can just start a WebQuest with a word processor, the Word that you have in your Office suite of Microsoft, for example. You can use it with a PowerPoint document. You can do it with an Excel. Or if you like more complex things, you can obviously go ahead and use block type of designing pages, or WordPress, which is used to design web pages as well. So you can do it from the very simple until the very complex. So there's no need to worry. You don't have to be any systems expert to make a WebQuest. What does a WebQuest look like? A WebQuest is different from any other internet-based research because, number one, it is classroom-based. We're talking about work group. Even though there are sometimes WebQuests that can be done individually, this is not the usual case. The usual case is that we're going to do it in the classroom, and it's going to be a group work. Okay? Second, it focuses on higher order thinking. Higher order thinking, talking about the critical thinking skills, okay? Such as analysis, creativity, and criticism. This is not about acquiring information. So if you ever see a teacher telling you that he or she is doing a WebQuest and she just gives the students the instruction to look up for information in the web, you can say with absolute certainty that that is not a WebQuest, because this is about criticism, creativity, analysis, not just acquiring information. This is why the planning part of the WebQuest is truly important, because the teacher has to pre-select the sources. So the students use the information, they just not gather it, okay? We want the students to use the information that you want them to use, not go ahead and look for it. So that is very important. That is key, that you take note about this and know that you have to make a planning work, pre-selecting the sources. So the WebQuest structure is right here in this illustration. This is the general structure for the WebQuest. We're going to see in the further slides, we're going to see how the structure is really detailed. We're going to make a breakdown of that structure, but we're going to see this WebQuest structure right here. A WebQuest has an introduction, of course. It has a task. It has a process description. It has a conclusion, and then you use it in a teacher page. What I was telling you, it can be a Word, it can be an Excel, a PowerPoint document, it can be a web page, whatever you want to use it in your teacher page. And very important part of WebQuest is sharing. People share their WebQuest in many sites. So you have to be prepared to share your WebQuest with the public, with the audience. So let's see a little bit more in detail what the WebQuest structure is. So introduction. The introduction orients the student and captures their interest. Okay, so very important, because our new generation of students, they're kind of getting bored by everything, and they see research work in schools and universities as just a way of passing information from one source to a piece of paper, from one source to a file, and then just get a good grade. So this introduction has to be really captivating, and you have to be really, really creative. These three parts of the WebQuest structure are, for me, the most important parts that you're going to see. So the task. The task is the formal description of what the students are going to do during the WebQuest. So the task should be meaningful and fun. You have to describe what you're going to expect from your students, but make it fun, make it engaging, make it like something they would really be interested in, okay? It can be something from actual moments of Colombia, for example. It can be something related to their hobbies and likes, for example, music. And I don't know, if Metallica is coming on tour, we can talk about Metallica and music and the influence of music in young people, for example. That could be something that the students are interested in. So introduction and task, very important to capture their attention. Then we have the process. The process will explain the strategies that the students would need to complete that task. So there's going to be like an outline of the steps the students should take to accomplish a task. Also very important, remember that our students don't have that span of attention that we usually need. So you have to make it as easy as possible for them. You can help them with some demonstrations, of course, but make it easy for them. Don't make it complicated. Remember to use simple words, and the outline is a very useful tool so they can know exactly the steps by steps that you are going to have. Resources. The resources are the links or the websites the students are going to use to complete the task. So you have to provide these. Remember that the teacher has to provide this to help the students focus on the exercise and on the process of information and not locating it. The job of locating the information is teacher's job, not the student's job, okay? So you can incorporate your previous research as a teacher, use the links within the process section, and there is where exactly the links should be placed. Some teachers make the big mistake of putting the links at the end of the document they give to the students, okay? So don't do that. We need to include the links in the process, okay? And you can, of course, use offline resources, but your main focus is going to be on the links. Useful offline resources, of course, your Nat Geo books. We have Our World, Reading Explorers. These are materials that you can use to obtain topics. For example, a topic that is related to what you're seeing in your book could be interesting and relevant for your classroom, okay? You can also use some of the techniques that the books express to prepare a WebQuest, so it's very useful to have these books at hand. Then comes the evaluation part. The evaluation is very important, and this is how the students are going to feel okay with doing WebQuest. If you do it right the first time, the students are going to be happy, they're going to be confident, they're going to be at ease with the WebQuest, and they're going to have the possibility to be evaluated fairly. So remember key points of assessment. When you're going to design the evaluation of the WebQuest, the standards should be fair, they should be clear, they should be consistent, and specific to the task set. So this could easily measure the results of the activity. And students, as I tell you, are going to be clear on what is expected from them and how they're going to be evaluated. If we get those two things together, we can connect them, we're going to have a very successful WebQuest. And the conclusion, that would be the last part of the process, and you're going to sum up the activity and encourage the students to make a self-assessment on how they face the process and the results of the process. This must be done definitely as a very important part of the classroom. So you must set aside a specific time for this activity. Don't leave it just as a 5-minute thing, or don't send it through email like a feedback. No, you have to set your time aside for this activity, okay? How to use WebQuest in education. So WebQuest can be a valuable addition to a collaborative classroom. Remember a little bit about Bloom's taxonomy? One of the goals of a collaborative classroom is to increase critical thinking. Collaborative classrooms are where students are working in groups and they each have a task to be done, okay? So when we try to mentor 21st century skills, we need to think on how to mentor teamwork and how to mentor critical thinking, okay? So we need to design the WebQuest as a very specific teamwork. So think about how you're going to be dividing the groups and design the tasks that each student will have, the different positions that they will have, because this is a real role play. This is the real thing. Usually role plays are kind of fictional, and they have, for example, the students repeating a dialogue of a fictional family. Hello, my name is John. I'm from England. I have a family. I have a wife. Her name is Amy. And then Amy comes to speak. And usually the students are repeating this, but this is fictional. WebQuest allows to have a real role play activity where the students are assigned roles in different positions and they learn how to deal with conflict. That is also a part of the 21st century skills that are being developed. We need to develop leadership. We need to develop how to manage conflict. So this is very important because obviously in the task, there's going to be a leader. Obviously, each person is going to be assigned one of the tasks to produce what is needed to be produced. So this is going to generate conflict, like real life. So we're teaching students to deal with real life. So this is how we use WebQuests in education. WebQuests can be used to introduce new knowledge, to deepen knowledge, or to allow students to test hypotheses as part of final interaction with knowledge. They also are very useful to increase students' competency with technology. Depending on the kind of schools and depending on the kind of students, some students are going to be more or less used to work with technology, or they just know how to use technology for specific things, like I was telling you, browsing YouTube, streaming a song in Spotify, okay? So this is going to help them be a little bit more competent with technology. The specific task list helps students stay on task. Sorry, mind the typo, to stay on task. They teach them to do the to-do lists, which is very useful for real professional life. Usually when you start working, you don't know how to make a to-do list and you get really swamped up and you don't have time for anything because you don't organize your time. This helps them do that because the task list is a to-do list, okay? With the specific sources of information, students are focusing on using resources to answer questions, not just using resources to copy-paste. We're not using the Wikipedia to answer a question about who discovered America, for example. And they just go to Wikipedia, they copy, they paste, and there you go, your homework, and that's it, okay? We are using these resources to answer real questions, real-world questions. Why WebQuests? Why should we use WebQuests? Because the students are allowed to use imagination and the problem-solving skills that they have. And this is going to teach us a lot about our students. Who is creative? Who has good problem-solving skills? And not the usual research project, as I was telling you. Who discovered America? Gather information and put it into paper. Objective? A grade. No. This objective is usually to reflect upon an issue that we want the students to reflect on. There are no predefined answers, and that is good because the students must generate those answers. They must be creative to answer a question, okay? So there is no right or wrong answer, just critical thinking, my arguments, my opinion, okay? And show me how to solve a problem. That is what we want the students to do. That is why we want to use WebQuests. Also, they are a wonderful way to capture students' imagination. This Professor Letkeman is one of the persons that are the most experienced in the use of WebQuests, okay? So he says that this is a way to let them explore in a guided, meaningful manner. Guided manner. That is so important when we're talking about technology. We're going to see that also in another talk that we're going to have about the use of technology in the classroom. But guided manner is the key in the use of technology in classroom. Because you are the captain of the ship. Let's say you as teachers are captain of those ships. And a ship with a captain can go nowhere or can go everywhere. So we want to go everywhere with the students, but we want to guide them. We want to teach them how to use those resources smartly, okay? So it's of utter importance that you guide your students through the WebQuest. Communications, group work, problem solving, and critical and creative thinking skills are getting more and more important. When we're talking about professional lives, we don't want just a person that can do mechanic work. We want somebody to innovate. We want somebody that contributes with ideas. We want somebody that really, really wants to make things different. So we are teaching the students 21st century skills. We are using their knowledge, their actual knowledge, to generate more knowledge, literacy in the language they're learning, of course. And this is so much better than have them the traditional repeat after me, right? We don't want the students doing that. We want the students being better citizens of the world. So that is why we want to use WebQuests. They also allow students to explore issues and find their own answers, especially with controversial issues. And in the example we're going to see later on, you're going to talk about a very important issue, bullying in school. That is a current and controversial issue in schools, especially with the latest things that happen about the diversity in schools. So this can be a chance to make the students reflect on that issue and get a real opinion guided by facts and by a real research, not because just my best friend tells me that I don't have to like that student in particular, so I'm going to do it. No, they're going to reach real decisions with the WebQuest, okay? The WebQuest also help to make adjustments in educational programs to accommodate to different learners' needs. And here we're talking about, for example, when there's special needs in some learners that have difficulty in reading, learners that have difficulty in writing, learners that have difficulty in listening, but they also work for advanced students. So when you have a WebQuest and you design a WebQuest, it is very important that you accommodate to your specific group and try to give each student the role that they are capable of doing. So this, for advanced students, is useful because they're feeling that they are on track, that they are on rhythm. And with the special needs students, it lets them participate without being bullied, for example, in this case, or without being pressured and feeling uncomfortable. So this is why we want to use WebQuests. But of course, nothing is such beauty in some cases. So there are limitations to the use of WebQuests. They're only one of the tools you can use in your classroom. And as such, you cannot abuse the use of WebQuest. It doesn't have to be, for example, 2 WebQuests a week or all the time. That is the way we're going to use the research things. No. This is one of the tools. So you have to use that time wisely and make it unpredictable for your students. You want the students to not know what's going to happen. So if they start like realizing that you're going to make 2 WebQuests a week, it's going to be complicated. But if you're doing 1 WebQuest a month or 1 WebQuest each term, that is going to be interesting for them because they're going to expect the project. They're going to be eager to do the project. They're not appropriate to every learning goal, and this is very important. If you have different objectives in your classroom, you have to learn that WebQuests are not useful for every learning goal. They require good reading skills, so that they are used by students that have those reading skills. So younger learners, very young learners, for example, WebQuests are difficult, even though nowadays they've been designing young learners WebQuests, a little bit different from the ones that we're seeing here, but they're more visual. But it's a totally different objective for the WebQuest, so it's kind of different of what we're talking here. Or lower level learners, also students that don't have that proficiency in English, this is not good for them. You're going to feel overwhelmed. Or students with specific difficulties in language and reading. As I was telling you, if you're going to prepare a WebQuest and in your classroom you have students with those specific difficulties, you're going to be limited to how to give away the tasks that have the WebQuest. So be careful on that one. So how does a well-planned WebQuest look like? Okay. First of all, keyword there, plan. You need to plan your WebQuest very well. So you're going to have a lot of time to plan your WebQuest. So a well-planned WebQuest is guidance for students, a creative end project with room for flexibility. You must be flexible. You must understand that students are not going to produce exactly what you're thinking they're going to produce, okay? And links that help answer questions and positively add to the project. A strong WebQuest is designed for students to work independently, meaning that the group is going to work independently, okay? So you as teacher are going to have, as teachers are going to have the role of facilitators. You're going to be there for them. You're going to be helping them acquire, right, the knowledge through this activity. So you're going to be walking around the classroom, you're going to be speaking with them, you're going to be clearing doubts, you're going to be working with them rather than giving the knowledge. The dispenser of knowledge that the teacher sent to the classroom is no more. You are around the students, listening to them, understanding their questions. If they have any doubts, you have to answer them, okay? So very careful with that plan of the WebQuest. Also, always thoroughly check any WebQuest that you have not created yourself. As I told you, WebQuests are usually shared, and there are many sites to find WebQuests, okay? But you have to make sure that you don't pick a WebQuest just because the sake of it. You don't want to use a WebQuest without making sure the information is relevant and that the link works. That is a very usual mistake that teachers do. They see a topic that they're interested in and they grab the WebQuest and just copy it to show it to the students, right? But they don't see if the links work or if the links are relevant. So relevance is key. It's much better to tailor your WebQuest for your curriculum and your students. Okay, the idea is that you search for existing WebQuests first, of course, but make note of what you like and what you don't like, and add your own flavor to it. Add your own recipe. Make it yours. Make it your WebQuest, and make it relevant for your students. Because if you're going to choose, for example, a WebQuest on soccer, and the WebQuest is talking about the Brazil national team, well, our Colombian kids are not going to like it. So definitely we need to make it relevant for our students, for our own students. So are you going to take the Quest challenge? Yes, yes we are. So where do I begin if I want to do a WebQuest? This is the part where we start taking notes. I hope that everybody is, I'm going to go outside for a minute and see if there's any questions. Do we have any questions here? Not yet? Okay, so we're going to continue and see where to begin. Where do I begin when I want to design a WebQuest? So I heard a little beep, so that probably means we do have a question. Okay, so everything's okay. So let's continue with our instructions on how to prepare a WebQuest. So where do I begin if I want to do a WebQuest? So we start with an outline. Remember the outline of the task of the students? Obviously, we as teachers need to prepare an outline. So what about using the creator of WebQuest, Tom March, outline pre-writing your WebQuest? That is a very useful document, and you can find it at tommarch.com/webquest/help/prewrite.html. Okay, so take note of that webpage and try to download your outline about pre-writing your WebQuest. Once you have your outline, you have to begin with the creative process, which is the most difficult one, but it will help you make a real good WebQuest. So first of all, the topic, remember, we need to know what we're going to talk about. The task, the most important. So you can see how to outline those tasks in WebQuest.org. WebQuest.org is Bernie Dodge's website. Everything you need to know about WebQuest, you're going to find it in that site. Okay, so take note about this site because it's really important. And so it's webquest.org/sdsu/taxonomy.html. Okay, the process. If you want to know how to design the process correctly, you can go as well to tommarch.com/webquest/help/design.html. Then you go with the resources. You're going to go and look for the links that the students are going to use. Remember, that is your process. It is not the student's job to look for the links. It's your job. So you're going to find the resources, and you're going to talk about the evaluation. Okay? You can use this rubric that we have in webquest.org, where you can see what aspects of the WebQuest you're going to use as evaluation and what value you're going to give them. Okay, so very important. And that I saw this rubric, and it's very useful. You can give points for presentation, you can give points for a lot of things, and you can really have a very fair evaluation if you use this type of tools that are on the webquest.org page. So in conclusion, let's take Bernie Dodge's word for it. A real WebQuest is wrapped around a doable and interesting task that is ideally a scaled-down version of things that adults do as citizens or workers. Remember, we are mentoring digital citizens, okay? So this is very, very important. We need to teach them how to do things as if they were real citizens or workers, okay? Requires higher level thinking, not simply summarizing. This includes synthesis, analysis, problem solving, creativity, and judgment, okay? So a WebQuest is not something that is easy for students. It's not summarized. Don't take them to a website and tell them, give me a summary of what you read in this website. No. It has to have analysis, problem solving, creativity, and judgment. Makes good use of the web. A WebQuest that is not based on real resources from the web is just probably a normal class in disguise, okay? So this is a real WebQuest. It's not a research project. It's not a science project. It's not a math procedure. This is not about specific things that the students are going to produce. Remember that they are going to have to generate their own answers. So remember, there's no real right or wrong answer, right? They don't have to make a presentation at the end and summarize what they saw. No, this is something that they need to grasp, and they need to originate their own opinion, okay? It's not a web page experience. So you don't make students go look at this page, then go play this game, and then go here and do this activity and do that activity. And no, if it doesn't require higher levels of thinking skills, it's not a WebQuest, okay? So don't get yourselves confused on traditional research, because some teachers do it. And some teachers say, I'm going to do a WebQuest. So go and look for the links, or go to this link and summarize. No. WebQuest is a total different thing, as we saw it. WebQuests are a real process of team working to make a final product, okay? So where to look for examples of WebQuests? You can go to webquest.org. Let me click here and show you. So this is webquest.org. This is Bernie Dodge's page. So you have here everything you need to know find WebQuest, create WebQuest, share WebQuest. Remember, sharing is very important. Okay, useful resources, community. This is a community. Okay, so you can share your opinions with other teachers. You can share your opinions with fellows. You can do whatever you want here. And research and bookshelf. And this is what you find in WebQuestorg. Okay, we also have, for example, Education World, the archives. This is a very good website as well. Okay, so there you have, for example, a list of WebQuests. Four Freedoms, On Top of the World, Vietnam Veterans Memorial, The Pet Detective WebQuest, Japanese Arts Festival, Easy as Can Be to Pick the Perfect Tree. Okay, so these are examples of WebQuests that you can use. Okay. TeachTechnology is another site that is very useful. And you have also a WebQuest Maker, a very useful tool. And you can have also teacher templates, pre-made rubrics, lesson plans, and the WebQuest that you want to understand. Okay? So up to here, do we have any questions? Do we have any questions in the chat? Let's see. No? No questions here? Okay. So I'm going to show you an example of a WebQuest that I really liked. In TeachTechnology. Okay, and here is something that you can use as an example and take as a model, of course, to make a WebQuest. So we have the name, subject, teacher name, and date. And the topic is cyberbullying, not ever. Look at how the title is presented. It's not a traditional way to present a title, right? Cyberbullying, not ever. It's strong, it's engaging, it makes you think. So it's an excellent way of producing a title. So take note, how to make a title, make it engaging, thought-provoking, that it makes impact as soon as you see it. So I don't know, if you see that topic, cyberbullying, not ever, would you want to research more about it? I would, for example. So introduction, remember the introduction. So it says here, welcome students, throughout this WebQuest, you will explore the meanings behind cyberbullying. You will undertake activities in order to form a clear understanding of the roles of the bully, the victim, and the bystander. To conclude, you some friends will have the opportunity to create a movie. So you see, they're already giving the students an overview of what the WebQuest is about, what they're going to learn, very important for the part of evaluation and conclusions, and they're showing them the task. Okay, so from a standard point of view, the task is adequately prepared or not. What do you think? Somebody that wants to answer that question? Is the task adequately prepared? Okay, so then you have the process. And here is what the students need to do. What do you have to do? 1, answer and type all the answers in Microsoft Word. 2, find some pictures on the internet which represent your ideas of cyberbullying. You see, the knowledge is giving knowledge, but the knowledge the student has. Find some pictures on the internet which represent your ideas of cyberbullying. Open Windows Movie Maker, import your pictures into Movie Maker, add questions and answers to the movie by using titles and credit pages, Place your photos along the photo line in Movie Maker and add your song to the movie to complete the task. Okay? For me, this process is a little bit blurry, in my opinion, if you don't mind me saying, because I think it lacks a little bit more of detail for the students. But the task is really cool, right? And the process is cool. They need to create a movie. Okay? So it's a very cool task. Something that they don't usually do. Students don't usually make movies. And it's something interesting. Resources. Remember that we must put the resources in the description of the process, not in an annex or a list. So here are the resources. Cyberbullying info, stop cyberbullying, the blah, blah, blah. This is all the links that the teacher found. And evaluations. So here is the part where you explain to students how they're going to be evaluated. Your movies will be assessed on the following criteria. Information given relevant and true, movie eye-catching and interesting, was all spelling grammar correct, how well did you interpret and answer the questions, how well did the team perform as a group. So we're not only evaluating the English part, but we're evaluating more things, if you see how this evaluation is going on. Really the part that is about English is all spelling grammar correct, but how well did the team perform is about our 21st century skills. Okay? And conclusion, this is the conclusion that we're going to make in class. So this is how a WebQuest looks like. This is how we want to show the students how to use WebQuest and how to make a class more and more interesting and engaging. So this is more or less our presentation. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you about WebQuest. This is one of my favorite topics, talking about technology and things that are engaging for this new generation. So I hope that you were as excited as me to learn about this new tool. I hope you start using the tool soon in your classrooms, which is very, very important. And well, I don't know if we have any further questions, comments? Nobody? So thank you very much. This is going to be available on the YouTube channel, and you can see it at any time that you can or you have any questions, okay? So of course, if you need anything else, my name is Laura Mendoza. You can find me at laurixorama@gmail.com. Okay, so we have a question actually here from Miguel. How to convince teachers to give WebQuest a try, to try them out in classroom? So the first thing that I would tell a teacher is basically, have you seen the attitude of your students in your classroom? Have you seen, for example, the teenage classrooms especially are looking more and more bored sometimes in classroom. You have faces that go like that they're sitting like this. And we as teachers are always wondering, how do I get the students' attention? So this is a way to get students' attention. This is a way of engaging with students in topics that they really are passionate about. So if you want to make students speak, if you want to make your students participate in class, which is at some point difficult, this is a way of doing it, because they're going to be passionate about what they're going to be talking about. So they want to show the rest of the class their positions. They want to show the rest of the class their opinions, and it's going to be a nice class. So yes, give it a try, and you're going to see that this is going to generate a real communication classroom. Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay, so if you want to know more about WebQuest, as I tell you, visit the WebQuestorg page, which is very useful, and it's the Bible of WebQuests. So I hope, as I tell you, that this was really thought-provoking and that you can use this tool in classroom. Oh, we're receiving greetings from Costa Rica. Costa Rica pura vida. Yes, we like Costa Rica. And thank you very much, sister, for sending us your greeting. We are very glad that you could join us in this Hangout and that you can learn about WebQuest. Okay, so I think that would be all for today. Remember, you're going to have this talk available on the YouTube channel, and you can see it anytime you wish. Thank you very much, and see you next Wednesday when we're going to talk about how to foster autonomy in our students. Thank you.